Joe Gamaldi, former NYPD officer, now National Vice President at the Fraternal Order of Police, joins us now. We can get to the vaccine mandate debate in a minute, whether the mayor has the right to do it or not. But just from a practical and safety standpoint in the city, is it the right thing to do? And he's a former police officer himself.
Well, let me tell you, Leland, deciding to lay off thousands of police officers right now in New York City is utter insanity. Let me just give you some statistics of what's going on in New York right now. Homicides are up 45% in the last 2 years. Shootings are up 102% in the last 2 years. We've had 5 police officers shot in New York last month, which makes up about 20% of all police officers shot in this country. There's crime and disorder everywhere. You can't find a U-Haul truck in the tri-state area because everybody's moving out. Rite Aid is closing their stores because people are just filling up trash bags and walking outside the door. And the idea from the mayor is to fire thousands of police officers? I mean, you combine that with DA Bragg, who just released a memo that said he wants to go even softer on crime in New York. It's completely insane. I mean, people need to understand that America is a much more dangerous place over the last few years than it has been in the past. And we need every single person who is willing to put on a uniform. And believe me, there ain't that many of us left nowadays that is willing to do it. We need to make sure that we support them, not be looking to fire them because they're not going to take the vaccine.
I want to get your reaction. The points you made there about New York are an important one, and that's sort of where we were going with the show. It seems as though the 2 officers shot and killed today, adding to the 30 that have been shot so far this year. You all put out a press release saying that police officers have never been under siege in the way that they are now. Why? I understand crime going up. Why violence against police officers going up?
Well, you know, Leland, it's funny because it's even worse than what you were describing earlier, that, yes, there is a 67% increase in police officers being shot, but that's coming off last year. That was a historic year for police officers being shot. We had 346 officers shot in this country. The FBI just released a report that 2021 was the deadliest year for intentional homicides for police officers in the last 20 years. And I'll tell you what's causing it. It is a toxic cocktail that has been shoved down the throats of law-abiding Americans. It's rogue DAs who are letting violent repeat felons out over and over again. It's bail reform, which has been an unmitigated disaster. I think the American public thinks if you rob somebody at gunpoint, you're going to go to jail. Nope. You're going to get a PR bond where you make a pinky promise to show up to court and then you're right back out. And you add all of that with the demonization of law enforcement, which continues to this day, despite these historic numbers we're seeing.
Yeah, no,
and
Joe,
I understand. It's not hard to see why this has happened.
Yeah, no, I understand the anger, and certainly to see fellow officers shot and killed. And bail reform and these things have obviously been tried with the idea that it's going to promote a greater social justice. The argument whether or not it's working or not is a different one than what it's doing to the morale of police officers. And I wonder if there is a split between the morale and the issues you talked about for a cop, say, in New York, where you used to work, versus central Indiana or a sheriff's deputy in Florida that's relatively supportive of law enforcement.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been a police officer for 17 years, Leland. I've never seen morale this bad. I represent 365,000 police officers across the country, and we're all saying the same thing. We are sick and tired of the violence against us. And there is no reason why the President of the United States, while senators, representatives, local elected officials should be condemning the violence against law enforcement. And we should be passing the Protect and Serve Act in Congress, which would make it a federal crime to assault a police officer so that we can get it out of the hands of these rogue DAs and actually hold people accountable when they're assaulting police officers.
Right, and there's a number of these DAs who say they're not going to prosecute resisting arrest, but you call them rogue DAs. They're not rogue. They've been elected. They were elected by the people on these platforms of bail reform, sentencing reform. I say reform, but going lighter on these issues. Do you think these DAs are actively trying to get more police officers hurt, or they are simply misguided, or that their reforms need more time, as they would say?
Well, I will tell you that I call them rogue because they refuse to follow the law. They just decide that they're not going to enforce the law, even though I'm not really sure they have the legal right to do that. But prosecutorial discretion, they're allowed to do certain things.
They are.
But I will tell you this, Leland, they continue to let these violent repeat felons out.
But why? Why? Do you think they're just crazy and they want to get more police officers killed, or do you think that they're misguided? What's the why of what they're doing?
Well, I will tell you what my belief is. They're bought and paid for by George Soros money, which means they have a certain agenda that they have to follow. And there is no one, and I mean no one, that they won't sacrifice on that agenda. So whether it's police officers, victims, children, it doesn't matter. They have their walking orders, which is to be light on crime, continue to let people out over and over again. And this failed social experiment is costing lives. We had 15 American cities last year experience their highest murder rate in recorded history. It's not working. We don't need more time to see the results. We've seen them, and they're horrific.
So if 32 officers shot in 32 days doesn't change things, and look, some of these DAs that you talk about in St. Louis and then also here in Chicago have been reelected. If 32 officers in 32 days isn't going to change anything, what will?
You know, I don't know what it's going to take, but I guess things are going to just have to get worse until people really wake up and stop electing these folks over and over again. I mean, to your viewers right now, if you're living in a community where violent crime is ravaging your streets, vote these people out. It is the only way that we are going to make a difference. We can only do so much at law enforcement. We're one part of the criminal justice system. We're putting them in jail, but they're letting them right back out on the streets.
All right. Hey, Joe, I know I speak for a lot of citizens, not even for TV anchors, when I say that every time we have to think and hear about an officer being killed, you think about all the officers out there who go to work every day with a badge and a gun to protect all of us. And there's a lot of us who are grateful. We probably don't say it enough. So thank you.
Thank you, Leland. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see you.